Well, hello there, humans, bees, earthlings, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and if you're lucky enough to be doing it too. I'm Bushka on Blitz, and this is the FV4202. This is also a patron-sponsored post. If you've ever considered sponsoring the channel, patrons are the reason the channel exists. We wouldn't be getting videos every day if those boys and girls didn't put their hands in their pockets and help support the community. So there you go. The 4202, I just did a video about the 215B. Had a bit of an op-ed piece, and by op-ed, it's like an opinion editorial. This is more or less what I want to do with this tank. I think this tank's been nerfed severely, and it's now one of the poorer mediums at tier 10. And I drove in stream today with Snake Eyes, and I drove the 4202, and I wrecked humans in this tank. And I had to think about it. And it's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this video and the 215B video. And basically, the thing that keeps springing to mind with me with these tanks is the same thing. Really, really high skill cap tanks. Tanks where if you are good enough, there is a lot of room to gouge out solid results and gouge out really good games. If you are not good enough, you're going to struggle, and it's not the kind of tank that is very forgiving. You're going to see two things I just did there, which the 4202 has an amazing upper glacis. If you can guide people into actually hitting your upper glacis, you'll bounce all the time because it's got the best upper glacis in its tier. Like, it's amazing. The other thing it's got going for it that's pretty cool, I run it with calibrated shells, so I have a massive amount of pen for a tier 10 medium, as much as you can get basically for a tier 10 medium. And I've got 178mm of HESH. Now the HESH is the thing that got really badly nerfed on this tank. What does all that mean? Well, if you're clever and you use HESH and you're capable of baiting shots on the only part of your armor profile that's got any chance of hitting shots. If you're able to climb very steep hills and use the 10 degrees of gun depression so that you can absolutely massively make sure that people are hitting your turret at its optimum angle, because the higher you are and the more angled your turret, the more likely it is to bounce because it's got no armor, then the better you're going to do in this tank. And on top of that, you've got to do the normal medium things, which are keep track of multiple targets, be very, very good in brawls, and be very fluid in situations where you have to think on your feet, and you have to just instinctively, from hundreds and hundreds of games of repetition, thousands of games of repetition in mediums and lights, make good decisions. Then this tank has a very, very high skill cap and a very, very high ceiling. What else it has is an exceptionally low floor. Now, I didn't have any of those games today. I had nothing but gold medal games. They were great games. But I'd like to think that if you're watching these games, you'd realize just, like, I pulled a lot of stuff out of my butt. And there's like an E100 shot in this game that really should have gone in. And I had to play as good as I can possibly play a tank. The gun is never the... Like, watch this shot. Bang. No worries. Because I've got a lot of pen on it, I can do that. And it's very, very mobile. And it's got gun depression. The FV4202 is kind of like a slower version of a Leopard 1 with more armor. Doesn't have quite the DPM. Doesn't have quite the speed. It doesn't have quite the mobility in terms of traverse and everything, but it's not far off in all those categories. And because of that, you can use it really effectively. Now, it's not a tournament tank at all. It's not going to work as a tournament tank at all. People will tear it apart as a tournament tank. What's that mean for the tank itself? Well, you know, it's probably not strong enough, and I'd still love to see it replaced by the Action X, Centurion Action X, or some variation of a Chieftain or something. But until that point in time, I get pushed on by this young man here, We get a nice bounce off our turret, and then I'm doing simple little things like using this wall there to make it tough for him to actually get the shot off, so that our DPM is a lot closer then, because he has to wait through a reload to get the shot off. And you're going to see then, right at the end of this, where it looks like I'm about to get wrecked, I hit him for a 450 damage Hesh shot on the top of his hatch, and we get away with it. We've got 153 hit points left. And this is where the whole thing about the tank's not so great, but if you're experienced, you can take a good gun and make something of it. There's a 215B who's going to push around there, and I'm basically just playing possum with him, waiting for him to come around here so then I can move around on the other side and start using this range over here to put some shots into the I7, straight through the drive wheel. Again, like, this is good tanking, going through a drive wheel when I'm not sure of getting a pen, because I know I can pen through a drive wheel. This is not your standard average run-of-the-mill thing that most players are doing, and then tracking that 215B so as a mobile and using the terrain to make sure that no one's hitting me, and then waiting here, resetting camo and going down and trying to get another shot in. We go for a drive wheel shot, no good. Gun didn't let us down, that was more me than the gun. And then we're basically doing the same thing. So you can see I am less sold on the tank being amazing, and more sold on it being a tier 10 medium tank. And what do tier 10 medium tanks have going for them? Well, not guns like that. They don't all have guns like that, but quite a few do, you know. Like, this is the same kind of gun handling you get out of a T62A now. Like, honest to God. You get better penetration on this, and I run the penetration for shots like this, where I'm shooting a silhouette of a T110E5, so I don't get spotted. I'm not pushing on a target where I don't get spotted until basically the decision gets made for me, where I have to go around here, because otherwise that 140 is going to get mixed, and I've got to take a risk. And so I roll on up and get spotted, and that is a crazy shot. Hey, like, that's just one you don't expect to actually walk away from, but we did. And then again, we're using the 140's hit point pool, and that 140 has a really good game, hey, like a really good game. But look at this shot. I mean, the penetration on this tank is really important for me. It's got penetration going for it. Think of it this way. It has certain characteristics that work well for it. One of them is Hesh, okay? And the other one is that it has a very accurate gun and very high penetration for a tier 10 medium. So what I'm going to do is accentuate the values that I have that are positive in this tank. And those two things I can accentuate by running calibrated shells are the Hesh. It's much easier to penetrate with Hesh. It's another 8mm of pen, which doesn't sound like an awful lot, but when you're dealing with high explosive, 8mm can be an absolute difference between life and death. And you can see how I am using Hesh really effectively all the time with this tank, and getting a lot of value for money from it. The other thing that helps with is I've already got a very high penetration medium gun, so I'm making it even better as a medium gun. Now that limits my DPM, but the damage per minute numbers on this tank are not good anyway. So what I'm really moving away from there are engagements like I ran into with that 140, and you saw how hard it was to deal with him. When you're pushed on like that, it's not a very good tank. It's a tank that can have some real struggles. But I mean, the fact that I'm able to use this tank very much as a peek-a-boom tank, where I'm able to fire a 105mm 350 alpha shell and then make sure it hits, because I've got 270mm of pen, or nearly 270mm of pen, which is a lot for a tier 10 medium. That's a big deal. Now I'm going to roll out one more game in this, and you've seen the first game we had was more or less good positional play and good use, despite the fact that we had a lot of mediums. And in this game, Snake Eyes and I are going to go romping, and we've got a very good mate on the other side, another Grump clan member, Redback, who's a good bloke, and he's in the Object 268, and he gets very aggressive. We have a lovely brawl, and you're going to see the mobility of this thing. It's always had fantastic pickup and fantastic, get up and go from 0 to 100 very, very quickly, and it's been able to get up hills very, very quickly. And that means that when you are in close brawls against turreted, non-turreted TDs, you can do some very cool stuff and move around, and you're going to see that in just a second. Now, I still think the tank needs a buff. I know that seems a bit hard to believe after that last game, but we were able to take advantage of some poor decision making from the Reds in the last game, and just a really lucky HE eating track that stopped that E100 from wrecking us. We should, for all intents and purposes, have been a goner. And I could have done that in pretty much... There was nothing that happened there that I couldn't have done in, say, a T62A, apart from those high explosive shots. And to be fair, if I had been in a T62A, I more than likely would have been able to smash that Object 140 a lot more comfortably than with that many bounces than I would have in this tank. So, but you're going to see again the gun. Like, watch this gun perform. What I'm doing here is exactly what I was talking about at the start. Is I'm pushing it all the way up the top of the hill, so that even if someone does shoot at me, I've given my armor its maximum armor profile, and I switch up for a HE shot on the bat chat, go for a HE shot into the deck of the 62A. A bit adventurous, don't get it. And again, I mean, you can see this gun just constantly performs, really does. And we switch to Hesh, we move around for a rear shot, another 400 alpha, and this is where this tank is absolutely loving life. Really excels in these situations when you can get to flanks. But again, I've got Maxi with me, and I'm playing with a very good player who is running around in an M60 in the loyalty tank. And that 270mm of pen and that 178mm of Hesh lets me get this shot in. On the high explosive side of things, I'm going to get the back turret of the IS-7, which is not an easy shot with Hesh. We managed to get a 425 roll, and you can see I am absolutely loving this. Now here comes Redback. He has eyes for me, absolutely has eyes for me. Hesh obviously not going in there, but look at the get up in the tank. Like, if you can put it in situations like this, all well and good, and look at the just dealing with. There's a 4502B coming. I know he's coming, and now I'm going to use the look at this mobility. This thing is unbelievable. Look at this move here. Just absolutely using everything I can to stay away from Redback. Then we get a side shot with Hesh into the 4502B, and we still manage to stay safe from that 150mm. I mean, it's a great tank, isn't it? Like, I don't know what to make of this. I feel like the tank still needs a buff. Just because I feel like I'm a very solid player. I've played for a long time, and I've played this tank and Hesh for a long time, and because of that I know what to do with this tank, and I have for a long time. And I don't think that the average run-of-the-mill player who's lining up this line first is going to have any of this kind of love affair or any of this kind of result. It's just not an easy tank to drive. The skill cap is high and the floor is low. What do you think? Leave your comments below what you think about the 4202, why you like it or why you don't like it, what you think about it. Yeah, I'd be very interested to know. Until next time, guys, look after yourselves and stay safe on the battlefield.